People who do not get stressed during a presentation, school or work. What is your secret? Experience. I used to get nervous and now I do not. Not sure when or why that happened. This is the boring, unappealing but best answer. I was constantly nervous in any speaking situation. It did not matter if it was just an informal presentation to my research group or a big talk at a conference. I stuttered and struggled through every talk. Over the course of a few years, I did public lectures to hundreds of people. I ran a DD game and ended up in a corporate job where, at one point, I found myself giving a talk every day for a month. Now, I'm completely confident in any public speaking situation. I will talk about basically anything in front of any group willing to listen. I totally sympathize with anyone who finds this advice terrifying, but you cannot do better than just getting experience. Find opportunities to talk in a formal context. Pick small groups or topics you feel really confident in, but struggle through the embarrassment until you do not care anymore. Public speaking doesn't bother me if I know the material really well. Know what you're talking about, and you lines be fine. Don't be afraid to not know something too. If someone asks you something you don't know, just say so. Yeah, a presentation is much easier to give when you are the expert in the room. Also, if asked a question, do not spout off bullshit. If you do not know, just say that is a great question. I do not have an answer for you off the top of my head, but let me get back to you. Also, the only person that is going to lose sleep over your bad presentation is yourself. So do not be so hard on yourself. Plus, the audience wants you for the most part to succeed and give a good presentation. They will likely give the benefit of the doubt where possible. An exception to this might be research conference presentations. Sometimes the audience members will ask questions in bad faith for any number of reasons, including they misunderstood your work and think you messed up. You did not cite their previous work. They need to assert their own dominance on that topic. They have research in the works that is threatened by your work, or they simply like to argue. The important part is to realize that very little of that is actually about you, and those types of questions get asked to everyone. I used to get super nervous before any sort of public speaking event. Shaky hands, sweating, nausea, the whole 9 yards. Eventually I landed a job as a corporate trainer. I was desperate for a job, and so I just had to get up in a room of 30 plus people every day and present the training material and answer questions. Honestly, I just pretended I did not care and faked it. Today I learned I made it. Now, it actually does not bother me to speak in front of a group. If this is a challenge that you are facing, maybe look into local public speaking groups such as Toastmasters. If you are able to stow the nerves and act confidently faking it, you might realize that you are actually quite knowledgeable about what you are presenting. Assuming you know the material, it becomes a feedback loop of confidence. Assuming you know the material. Back in my 20s I worked for a software company. Part of what I did was training. Most up to this point had been 1 or 2 people in front of a PC. Suddenly I was being sent across the country to train a room full of people at a major pharmaceutical company. Yeah, I was stressed. Best piece of advice my boss gave me: remember, you already know the material better than they do. This is the actual truth I have learned over the years. It is only in very rare occasions that you are not the one in the room that knows most about the topic you are presenting. Of course, in school there will be teachers and the likes, but all the students will be trailing by miles. In work it is essentially the same. You might encounter an expert, but most of the time they won't be seeking to freak you, are more likely talk to you afterwards for insights to your research, etc. So the truths are already mentioned in various comments. Be prepared, I know your shit. Be fresh, sleep until rested. Relax, you are the one that knows the most about the topic in the room. And a side note, a colleague who was training me for large group presentations: don't drink carbonated drinks, sake, soda, etc. on stage as you talking will produce gas in your stomach and make you burp. Proven in person, because I'm an idiot sometimes, so drink water. I'm vain and I love attention. How I handle boring shit. That is where the neuroses are. I was gonna say all sorts of stuff about how I won my school's public speaking contest by just embracing the audience and knowing that people actually respect the courage it takes to speak in front of others, and how you gotta know with yourself that, since speaking comes naturally in all other situations, the same can apply to public speaking, etc. But then I read your comment and realized this is really all there is to it. You gotta like the attention. I do not remember the people that bombed presentations, because those are not formative memories, but no matter how much I bomb this presentation, no one will remember in a month, especially since they are stressed about their own presentation. I remember 2 people that bombed. They both were presenting their 7th grade science projects. One kid kept saying semen instead of specimen. The other kid passed out and had to go to the nurse's office. How you prepare is key. Don't write a word-for-word speech. Develop your presentation in the form of questions that you can answer. That way, when you get off of your plan, or have a question pop up that you didn't explicitly plan for, you're already in the mindset of solving a problem, rather than reciting a speech. It allows you to pivot and improvise much more effectively. Laughing. I write the speech word for word, so that I have an idea of what I want to say and feel like I'm prepared. But I never try to read it off or memorize it. I just speak about the topic and use my general memory of what I had written as signposts in my mind of what my main points are. I feel like being forced to write the speech, even without the intention of reciting it, forces me to gather the information and my thoughts in a logical way. There is also some security in knowing that, if worst comes to worst, and I get too overwhelmed or nervous, I could find the notes and read it verbatim. Although I have never gotten to this point, knowing I could makes me more confident. For something that I have not seen posted yet, know what you have to say is important. Tell yourself that you know what you are doing, and that other people need to hear what you have to say. I have attended several research conferences. I notice the boomer-aged presenters just DGAF and read directly from cards without looking up once. If it helps. It does not really matter if you are a subject matter expert with several dozen peer-reviewed papers or a student. I think most people get nervous speaking in front of crowds. Just remind yourself that it is okay. It can help if you recognize those physical symptoms: tight chest, sweaty hands, or whatever it is for you, not as something is wrong, but rather your body preparing you for something important. Your stress response isn't as scary if you know it's there to help you be a badass if something scary shows up. These physical symptoms are similar to the physical symptoms of excitement. I keep telling myself it is excitement, not fear, and it is much easier to ride the wave and turn a negative feeling into a positive one. As long as I have prepped, I do exactly this. Years ago I did be like, oh damn, my stomach is so full of butterflies, I'm so nervous. Now I instead say, oh damn, my stomach is so full of butterflies, I'm so excited. And through this, I can convince myself that I'm having fun. If nerves get worse, I will just reinforce it even more. Wow, I cannot believe how excited I am. Cannot wait for this presentation. It works somehow. I thought I was scared of public speaking until I had to do this one assignment. As a generally quiet guy, I thought getting up in front of people and saying stuff was the last thing I did want to do. However, a switch flipped in my brain at the perfect moment. Just before beginning, I realized that everyone had to shut up and listen to me and let me explain all those many thoughts that rattle around in my brain. Think of it as an opportunity to get something off your chest. You do not owe the audience anything. They are getting something from your cathartic rant. Couple of things that worked really well for me dressing up. At least personally, when I throw on a suit and tie, I feel unstoppable. Knowing that I at least look nice can take the edge off the fear of not doing well. If you can, try to memorize, or at least be very familiar with the first paragraph or so of your speech. Maybe you do not have time to prep for the whole thing, but if you can start off strong, you will feel a lot more comfortable for the rest of the speech, plus you will have made a good impression on the crowd already. Note cards help. Take some time and watch some TED Talks on YouTube. Find somebody who is presenting style you vibe with, then try to model your style after them. Do not be afraid to admit if you do not know something. If your presentation has a QA and you get asked a difficult question, it is way better to just say I will look into this and get back to you with an answer than to just flounder and try to BS something. Hope this helps. I remind myself that everyone in the audience is rooting for me. Nobody wants me to bomb, they are all on my side. The worst that will happen is that people would not be paying attention. And people who are not paying attention are easy to talk at without getting stressed out. Double shot of whiskey really helped me during show and tell in 4th grade. If you are old enough to be drinking. In all seriousness, my former roommate had mentioned doing a shot or drinking a beer before interviews. So I tried a beer before each of the 2 biggest major speaking milestones in my degree program. And they definitely helped. Did not cure the stress, but definitely made it easier to focus on what I was doing and focus less on my stress. I also have had really bad public speaking fear. Giving lots and lots of occasionally really bad presentations has definitely helped. Also, I ended up giving a lot of my presentations fully scripted. It is not great, but it was a heck of a lot better than the alternative. Lastly, at this point I know that at least I cannot do worse than that one presentation I gave a couple years ago, which is oddly freeing. It was horrible, and I survived, and I never have to face those people again. I just say, duck it. What happens happens. It helps that I have enough self-confidence to either do well in something or make up for it later. The make up for it later part is key, because you can be a bungling idiot and still ask, what do I need to do to make up for this? And then do it as they told you to do it. Edit, I missed the keyword. Presentations. But my point stands, because as someone else said, people are only worried about messing up their own presentation. They want tea, and can tea remember yours within a couple weeks. Honestly, it is just experience. Speaking in front of people used to scare the heck out of me. Well, I became a tutor for my college, and was paid $6 an hour to tutor other students one-on-one. Well, the tutoring center wanted to start kind of a group tutoring concept for core classes. I was asked to tutor chemistry and I would have multiple kids in there. For this, I would be paid $9 an hour. Heck yeah. Well, the room I was assigned was a large lecture hall. Should have been a red flag. But I was going to make $9 an hour. I get there with no idea WTF to expect. I had no plan. I'm expecting a few kids. Maybe a dozen. Kids start showing up, and the room fills, and fills, and fills. I do not recall how many students showed up for my tutoring session, but it was well over 100. $9 an hour did not seem so good anymore. Well, I had no idea what to do, so I asked for questions and eventually it began to develop its own flow. I come to find out later that the chemistry professors offered kids something like 5 extra points on their final grade if they showed up to my tutoring sessions. Figured that out when kids started asking me how I was taking attendance so they could prove they were there. Anyway, after that I realized some things about public speaking. One, if I'm being asked to speak, chances are I'm thought of as an expert. People are there to listen to my thoughts. 2, it is okay to say the words I do not know. 3, preparation is important. If I'm able, I write a speech or presentation word for word as well as make an outline of taking subjects. I practice reading the speech word for word and review my outline. After that, I can either use the speech I wrote, or I have researched the topic enough I can basically freestyle my speech using the outline to keep me on point. 4, you often will have that one asshole who likes to make others look bad by asking obscure or difficult questions. To deal with them, I most often use the phrase "you know, that is an excellent question. I have to look into that and get back to do. Please give me your email at the end." Usually the nod will stroke their ego enough to get them to shut up. If they keep asking dumb shit, their coworkers will usually glare at them and set them straight. 5, stories are usually helpful. Why had I share my story above? Because it helps you relate to what I faced. It kind of makes a person say holy shit, that was probably frightening as heck, but at the same time give a hint that one can make it through it. 6, with experience, you begin to learn to read people. You can tell if people are hanging on your every word, or you can tell if people are bored as heck. When people's eyes are glazing over and jumping out the window begins to sound like a better option than listening to me. I will give a Cliff S notes are they still a thing version of what I was going to say and get the duck off stage. On 4 if they keep disturbing it, you really need to step in and shut them up. Down to asking them to leave the room. If you do not, you cannot keep doing what you are planning to do. In his days at Northeast XT I attended a performance by Steve Jobs. He actually was pushed by a moron taking constant flash pictures of him even after being asked to stop outright, and ridiculed that he still did, not to Steve asking security to escort him from the building. What Jobs did there though was having a story he wanted to tell, and telling that in a flexible way. He asked the audience constantly for input, and used the input in his whole thing to show off what a Northeast XT machine could do. Now few of us can achieve his level, but that flexibility he showed there, that is something all of us can try for. Be the expert and talk, aim for a goal, and get there without having to stick to just one scenario. You are so much more relaxed if you do that. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.